welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a functional health strategist focused on high performers struggling with gut health and migraines. And other than Miss Kim Heintz. Welcome, Miss Kim on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here. My name is Kim Heintz, and I am a functional health strategist. And what I do is I work with high performers who are struggling with a myriad of symptoms, gut health issues, migraines, chronic fatigue, insomnia. And what I do is I run functional labs to identify what's truly causing these issues. And then we address them through diet, lifestyle, and supplements to target exactly what's going on and help them get back to their baseline and then be able to be able to perform at a high level from there.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you. And today, let's talk about migraine free high performance healing what the doctors overlook. So, tell us the overlook. Your approach is framed as a healing. What doctors overlook? What is the most significant factor, a system in the body that you believe conventional migraine treatment consistently misses, and why is it routinely ignored?
So this is a big passion of mine because I personally struggled from chronic migraines. I had chronic migraines for 15 years, and I had a migraine that lasted an entire year straight when I was 28 years old. And I went the conventional route. I saw all the doctors and all the ologists and really struggled to get a break from these migraines. I did every single test. I took multiple types of medications and got a little bit of relief occasionally, but nothing ever really broke that cycle. And ultimately, what led me to break that cycle was looking beyond conventional medicine and getting into the functional space. And there are a few key areas that I feel like were overlooked in my own journey and what I have seen in my clients' journey. And it really comes down to like five key areas. One of them would be blood sugar. A lot of people who struggle with migraines really struggle with blood sugar dysregulation. Their blood sugar is kind of on a roller coaster all day long. What that feels like besides migraines would be, crashing in the middle of the afternoon, feeling wired and tired, waking up exhausted, waking up in the middle of the night. Those are some of the feelings. Uh, big imbalances in the nutrient system. So having really low levels of certain nutrients and having high levels of others. Gut issues are a big thing too. Hormonal imbalances and toxin exposure. So heavy metals, mold, things like that.
Interesting, Miss Kim. You connect migraine free with high performance. Why is simple being pain free not the ultimate goal? How does resolving migraines unlock a higher level of cognitive, creative, or physical function?
When you are struggling with migraines, it basically becomes like if you have a migraine that takes over your day. Even high performers who are able to power through, you're basically like if you have like a meeting or something and you have a migraine and you attend it, you're basically done for the rest of the day. At least that was my experience and what my clients have experienced too. I, and when you have a migraine, you also get this brain fog that takes over. It's like you're almost looking through a cloud, and it's really hard to think clearly or be creative. And so, being able to eliminate migraines allows you to be able to get your creativity back. And if you're a high performer, being creative is super important to be able to come up with new ideas or presentations or new ventures and things like that. And if you are pain free, you're able to connect with people and focus on relationships and being present versus worrying about, how to take care of yourself. And really, a lot of times people who are struggling with a migraine, they have to retreat into a dark room and, you know wait till the migraine passes, and so they lose a lot of time. And so addressing migraines and eliminating them really allows you to get your time back and be able to contribute and, achieve your goals.
Contribute indeed. And if you had to summarize it in one sentence, Miss Kim, what is the fundamental difference between high performance model you advocate for and the standard disease management model for migraines?
I would say that the biggest thing is that, in your conventional care, it's more diagnose and treat situation. So you're basically managing the symptoms, you're managing the pain. People will take preventatives to try to at least reduce the amount of migraines you're getting. It doesn't actually knock them out completely. And then when you get a migraine, you have medications that are there to hopefully cut it down in duration versus the way we approach things is we're really looking at what is causing these migraines to pop up. And the way I always like to look at it is almost like a bucket. I don't have a bucket in front of me, but I do have this cup. And whatever is, going into the cup, it basically, any if the cup's not flowing over, you don't have a migraine. But a lot of things can go into the cup. And those examples I gave you with hormones and blood sugar and things like that, they all go into the cup to, you know, lead it to eventually spill over, but so can stress, so can a poor night's sleep, so can inflammatory foods or foods you're sensitive to. All those things can go into the bucket and cause it to spill over. And when it spills over, you start dealing with a migraine. You feel that migraine coming on. So the way approach we take is let's remove as much of the things that are going into the bucket to cause it to spill over so that you are essentially raising your threshold and you're allowing yourself to really never get there so that the migraines aren't triggered.
On the overlooked healing factors, Ms. Game, beyond the brain, migraines are typically seen as a neurological disorder. What roles do you see the gut, the immune system, or metabolic health playing as a primary drivers rather than triggers?
Yeah, it's really going back to what I just mentioned with the bucket theory is something is triggering that neurological inflammatory response, and it's causing that migraine to come on. And so what we're trying to do is reduce the number of inflammatory triggers that can cause that to come on so that we can greatly reduce or even eliminate the number of migraines people are having.
In what ways a modern lifestyle or light, food, air, and pace fundamentally at odds with our biology in a way that creates a migraine prone system? What is the first environment change you recommend?
um I mean, water is a big thing, making sure you're drinking highly purified water. Our water, even if like your tap water doesn't like make you directly sick, it's full of chemicals. Now, here in the United States, we have a website where you can actually put in your zip code and it will tell you all of the different toxins that are in the water. And it's heavy metals and medications and pesticides and so many different things that are going into our water system that while technically safe are can be huge triggers and they can lead to a huge toxic burden in the body. So that's the first one of the best things anybody can do for themselves, whether or not you have a migraine or deal with migraines, is to really make sure you're drinking a high quality filtered water.
Filtered water, indeed. Could we frame migraines not as a pain problem, but as a cellular energy problem? If so, what are the drains the brain's energy reserves and how does restore them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we could. And what was your second part of that question?
could reframe the mind, what drains the brain's energy reserves and how do we restore them?
The really focusing on, as far as cellular energy, like nutrients, especially minerals, are mostly intracellular. And what I see with a lot of people in the testing that I do is that people are super depleted in a lot of key minerals: sodium, potassium, magnesium. And a lot of these cross, like, they're supposed to be inside the cell, but our cells are hungry and they're being drained. Something else we see a lot is that what could be draining would be a buildup of certain minerals or heavy metals. So we see copper getting built up a lot, especially in women. Women tend to be more copper dominant, if you will, and so that could be a connection since we see more women having migraines than men. It's like 6% of men versus 18, or sorry, yeah, 18% of women. And so copper can build up, it builds up in the liver, and then it starts to build up in the brain. And so sometimes that can cause, because copper can be highly inflammatory. And then same thing with heavy metals. We're exposed to a lot of heavy metals. It's in our air, it's in our water, it's in the foods we consume. And so that buildup can also drain our cellular energy.
Miss Kim, on the high performance connection, the give and the curse, many high achievers suffer from migraines. Is there a trait like deep focus, sensitivity, or dive that might make someone both prone to migraines and capable of high performance? How do you channel that trait productively?
Um, I guess I don't fully understand your question. Could you reframe that for me, please?
Yes, please. So many achievers, like athletes or actors or achievers that in our society, how deep focus or sensitivity or drive that make someone both prone to migraines? Are they are more prone to migraines because they are high achievers than the normal one?
I wouldn't say that high performers are typically more prone to migraines. I mean, we do see a lot of high performers that are prone to migraines, and I would also add to that list, high achieving corporates, entrepreneurs, and things like that. But also, I see it in people who maybe wouldn't classify themselves as high performers as well. I don't necessarily think that it is selective, just to high performers. It really can, uh, really kind of get anybody.
Hmm. And some people report periods of exceptional creativity or mental clarity after migraine resolves. What does this suggest about the brain state during recovery, and how can we access the state without debilitating attack or
Y-
debilitating attack?
that's a really good question, and I've never been asked that before. You know, it's interesting as to why somebody would feel more creative. I mean, there is this period after a migraine where you almost feel like it's almost like a hangover that happens after a migraine, but then after that you do feel like a renewed sense of energy. And so, and I don't know the mechanisms that causes that. Um, but obviously we would want somebody who, to not have a migraine and not and still be able to experience like extreme creativity. And it really comes down to making sure our energy systems are in line and that we are balanced. Because if somebody is feeling brain foggy or their energy systems are depleted or what have you, they aren't going to be able to unlock that creativity. And so, we talked a little bit about like nutrient deficiencies and nutrient imbalances, like making sure your nutrient systems are balanced so that, your body is functioning at the level that it should so that you can unlock that level of creativity.
Miss Kim, how do you guide someone to become their own health detective? What is the framework for connecting seemingly unrelated symptoms like skin issues, sleep problems, or digestive quirks for their migraine patterns?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that I do that I find to be the most helpful is running functional labs to identify. So I will run labs that are looking at the nutrients. I do a hair tissue mineral analysis, which is a hair sample that looks at nutrients and heavy metals. I look at the gut through stool testing and urine testing. And those three samples can tell us a whole lot. And that's where we can start connecting the dots between all of their seemingly unrelated symptoms and what is really going on inside. Because, the three different people can have similar results on their test, but they can have widely different symptoms. And so, what we want to do is identify what the underlying cause is. Say, hey, I just found this list of things that is really deficient, or you've got excess of, or what have you on the testing. And then based on that, we want to address those things. And we do that through very targeted mechanisms of, supplements that are very specific, that have a job for a certain amount of time. They get in and they do their job, and then we take them out. Diet changes can be super helpful, and then lifestyle strategies. And so, to answer your question about how to encourage people to be their own health detective, obviously, testing can be a crucial part of it, but then also getting curious about your symptoms. And if you're struggling with symptoms, those are communication signals from the body. It's the body's check engine light. And so the first thing that I want you to do is just get curious and say, hey, why I'm dealing with these symptoms? Something, my body's trying to tell me something. And so, what changes can I make? Because a lot of this, like, yeah, the testing obviously can tell us some very specific things, but what things do I have control of in this exact moment? And that's diet and lifestyle. And so, taking an evaluation and taking stock of your diet and your lifestyle and saying, how can I improve? How can I be 1% better every day to try to improve this to step further away from these symptoms can be huge for you.
Very huge indeed. And Ms. Kim, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Um, Short term, uh, just continuing to help people be able to achieve the freedom that I personally had. That's why I do what I do, is because I personally dealt with not just migraines, but a dozen other symptoms. And I do this work now because it took me decades to find a solution. And I tried to help people get to a similar result, achieve that freedom in a shorter time frame than I did. And then as far as long-term goals, be able to just have a bigger impact. There's a huge chronic health epidemic in this world, and I talk to so many people on my Instagram account, in the DMs, and there's so many people that are just really struggling with their health challenges. And so just being able to serve people and, help, be play a small role in being able to make this world a healthier place is a big long-term goal of mine.
Good luck to your goals, Ms. Kim, and looking forward for more success. And what will be
Thank
your
you.
piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
I think if you want to be a functional health practitioner, I would say there are some great programs out there for you to get started, like to help you, especially if you want to run labs and stuff like that. If you are looking to just be able to help people achieve their goals too, and be an entrepreneur of some kind or be a coach, like, really you just have to be a step or two ahead of the person that you want to help. And you can get started now, and just being able to make you know content or sharing your message with the world, like, you can be a ripple effect and be able to change somebody's life. And so I would say, there's somebody out there waiting for you right now. And if you've been wanting to put yourself out there and, you know, become an entrepreneur or become a coach or what have you. Like, there's no better time than the present, and you can start small. I did. I was working full time when I started this, and just played around to see how I could help people, and ultimately turned it into a business, and now I'm helping a ton of people. So I would just say to you, get started now, and you'll surprise yourself, see where you are in a year or two.
Yes, and thank you for that advice, Miss Kim. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, a book that I think everybody should read is, this is backwards because I think because of the mirror, but Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think it's amazing because he talks a lot about, like, if you want to make a change, really, you obviously set a goal, but your habits are what get you to the goal. And so I talked about being 1% better every day. James Clear talks about that in his book, and he talks a lot about how you can start slowly making changes, and you'll be surprised by how far you've come in a week or a month or a year just by trying to be 1% better every day. So I think it's a great book that everybody should read at least once.
A great book indeed. And thank you for that, Miss Kim. So, tell us, how should we think migraine prevention for the next generation is something that should be addressed in schools or workplaces proactively?
Um, yeah, I think there definitely needs to be a lot more education around it. I feel like that, especially, you if you look in the functional health space, there's a lot of people talking about, gut health and hormone health, and we don't have to deal with those types of symptoms, but we don't really see that as much, I feel, in the migraine space. We're starting to see it a little bit, but like, you know, it is a very debilitating condition, and I personally was told that I was just gonna have to accept living with migraine for the rest of my life, and that this was just, once you have them, you always have them, and that's it. And here I am now, and it's been about 8 years since I had a migraine, and so, like, I have personally have proven that theory wrong, especially since I struggled with so many. I was getting them pretty much all the time. So, like, there definitely needs to be a shift. There definitely needs to be more education around, you know, being able to, what can you do? What do you have control of? Because if you're a migraine sufferer, yes, like when they pop up, sometimes it feels unexpected, but like there's a lot that we can be doing to reduce the frequency and the amount of migraines that we're getting. And so it definitely needs, that we definitely need more education everywhere, really.
Miss Kim, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because of my abstract essay, is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 second season, and my food 101 in sixth season. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101, and music 101 fourth season. Science 101, Sex 101 in second season of my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Kim, in your model of migraine free high performance was widely adopted, how would it change the circulation of our thinking about migraine free high?
Can you repeat or can you reframe your question?
Yes, how this migraine-free high performance will be intricate to our minds through our generation to generations to come.
I mean, if we can start changing the narrative about migraines and people are greatly reducing it, I think we're going to have a more, with 18% of women and 6% of men dealing with migraine, like, and you can lose days or even in some cases weeks to a migraine. Like, think about how much of an impact that could be if people are pain free and not dealing with that such a debilitating condition and being able to live the life that they want and live the product like do the be productive and be able to do the things that they always wanted to do. I mean, that could change so much because that's such a huge percentage of people that struggle with these.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Kim. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you are want to promote on Book 101 Review?
Yeah, I have an Instagram account. If you want to follow me there, I talk a lot about general health there, which is just at kim.heintz. Or also feel free, and I message me on my DMs. I'd be happy to chat with you there. And then also feel free to visit my website. I've got a blog there, and I send out a weekly newsletter. So feel free to sign up to that.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Kim Heintz because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy will rise. So, Miss Kim, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Monica, people, see you soon.